Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, Tuesday, March 19th. And I hope you all had a great weekend. It was crazy here in Arizona. We had beautiful rain and some chilly weather moved in, and that's always nice here in Arizona. But we're back to sunny, beautiful blue skies here in Arizona. Today, I've got a special guest, Ben Bergquam, who I've known for a while. He's a very good friend to angel moms and angel families, and I want to bring him on. Ben, welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time to be on my podcast. I love you, and I have been just following. I cannot believe the traveling you do and everywhere you get. And what was it, the fifth time you were through the Darian Gap?
Yeah, it was actually the fourth time. We just got back from the Darian Gap about a week ago, and yeah, fourth time. We've gone once over from Colombia to Panama, and then three times. We actually tried to do the reverse flow route, which apparently had never been done before. And the first time we went about halfway, got in a shootout with the Gulf Cartel. We were escorted every time by the Center Front Special Forces of their border, called or the Center Front, which is the Special Forces of the Panamanian border. And they, in that first altercation, they shot one of the Gulf Cartel members, killed one, captured two, and protected us. And so thank God for those guys. The second time, we actually got rained out and had some physical issues going on. Thank God we turned around about halfway because we found out on our way back out that a mudslide came through and killed upwards of 50 people. They still don't know how many people died in it. And then this last one was the fourth time where we were actually helicoptered in about halfway, and then we finished the route going back to the Colombian border. So yeah, it's been incredible kind of seeing that. And for people that don't know, the Darien Gap is really the bellwether of what's coming to the United States. So if it's coming through the Darien Gap, it's going to be in the U.S. It used to be a month later, but now because of Joe Biden and Secretary Mayorkas, it can be within days. They've basically greased the skids and opened the gates and said, "Come on in." So that every trip is you learn something new, but it's yeah, it's been incredible.
And what I find so amazing is not one mainstream media journalist has done what you've done. And when people go onto your Instagram account and see the real life situations that you bring to us, things start to click and things. It makes it easier for people to understand how this all works and how this network has been put together. And when you look at the jungle from when it was, you know, a year, 2, 3 years ago, images that you have of it, and now what you have of it now, it's like a super highway through there, and
Yeah.
there's so much damage and garbage, right?
Yeah, it is. It's all controlled. It's all by design. This is the United Nations, in particular, the two parts of the United Nations, the UNHCR and the OIM. In Central America, Spanish-speaking countries, it's called OIM. In U.S., it's IOM, and it's the same organization, part of the United Nations. That's really the tip of the spear, all working with these leftist, communist, globalist NGOs, non-governmental organizations, masquerading as charities like Catholic Charities, Lutheran Social Services, Jewish Family Services. All of these organizations working with the cartels, working with foreign adversaries and our own government have basically created this pipeline. And it is the worst economic disaster I've seen anywhere. The estimates are, this was as of a couple months ago, that there were 60,000 tons of garbage in the Darien Gap. And this is one of the UNESCO heritage protected sites in the world, one of the last remaining pristine jungles in the world. And it's being absolutely destroyed by the very people that pretend to care about climate and pretend to care about the environment. They're just hypocrites. They're hypocrites and liars. They're destroying this area and they're destroying our world, and they're profiting off it. That's what people don't understand.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, every time we go, we find something new. On our first trip across, going from Colombia to Panama, we've found that the United Nations was actually handing out rape kits to women. I actually have one in my car with me. I'll be using at a speech I'm giving on Wednesday. And they give these to women and children. They're full of condoms, birth control, morning after pills. And they basically say, here you go. You're going to.
We've lost him for a minute. We're going to hold on because I know he'll be back on. Looks like they were having some windy weather there in DC.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yes, I had a glitch with my phone. So basically, the United Nations hands these out. They give them to the women and the children. They say you're going to get raped. They don't say stop, don't go. They just say here you go. And when it happens, here's a whistle that you can blow, and maybe that'll do something. But the reality is, it's all controlled. They've got maps. The United Nations. They've got maps all the way along the way. They give them maps from Central America. They've got the cartels operate in all of these countries. They don't just operate in Mexico and in America. They also operate in Canada. They operate in just about every country around the world. It's basically an illegal immigration travel agency, but it's working directly with the United Nations, working directly with these NGOs, and they're inviting people on this journey, this journey of death. In fact, the last mountain we were on this last trip was called the Mountain of Death, and on top of that mountain, it was covered with used condoms, the very condoms that the United Nations gives out to women as these cartel coyotes are bringing these guys over, these people over. They rape them along the way with impunity. There's nothing, they're not doing anything. And so this last trip, what we found out, which is even worse. So as you have Joe Biden pretending to make it better, you have Secretary Marcus pretending to make it better. We found out after they did the crossings that, they were sick of the optics of illegal immigration, so they enacted the CBP-1, where basically they can allow illegal immigration. It's still illegal immigration, but they're just allowing them across our ports of entry. Now what we found out is that the State Department, Secretary Blinken, has actually instituted this new program with these safe mobility centers and welcoming centers across America, where people now, they can change their status from illegal. They're basically economic migrants. 90+% of the people that are coming are simply coming for work. They don't qualify for asylum, but they're coached along the way. They can actually change their status along the way. They can be considered a refugee, and they're giving them interest-free loans that don't have to be paid back at your expense, a taxpayer expense, to be flown from basically anywhere in the world into the United States. So rather than actually helping fix the problem, rather than actually helping slow it down, they've basically just sent out the red carpet to the world and said, come on in. So everything you're hearing, moral of the story, if we boil it down, everything the Democrats are saying is an absolute lie.
Right. And as long as these NGOs, these NGOs are really doing the dirty work for the United Nations and whatnot. And as long as the money is there, these organizations are going to continue to work alongside the United Nations and the Biden administration and anybody else who's going to be forking over the money. And that's what's sad, because this money represents human lives and the tragedies that happen to these people. And then when they end up here in the United States, what is their life like? And I was just watching some videos of these Venezuelan young men saying, don't leave the shelters. They owe us housing. They owe us this. They owe us that. Ben, what's going to happen when we run out of money here in the United States? Who are these people going to start going after?
Well, they're already doing it. You're already seeing it. I was in New York. They're spending $12 million a day, something to that effect. Now they're estimating that's going to cost $3 billion over the next. I think it's $12 billion over the next 3 years. It's an incredible amount of money. We don't have that money, and so we're paying for it. We're already broke. We're already $34 trillion in debt, and every single one of these communities. And that's why I'm actually in Chicago now. We're meeting with some of the community activists and community leaders. It's double duty. I'm speaking tomorrow. It's my wife and I's 19th anniversary today, but I'm meeting with the folks here in Chicago, and they're pissed off. They're done with it. They see, and in particular, the Black inner city sees that their communities have been abandoned by the Democrats, and there's no money going to the Black communities. There's no money going to the inner city. There's no money going to the Hispanic communities, the legal Hispanic communities, or the poor white communities in America. It's all a lie. All of the money is going to destroying our country from within, whether that's sending it to borders of Ukraine. They're not sending it to the borders of America. And the people across America are getting it. They're fed up with it, and particularly the inner city. They're starting to see it. But you're right. When that money dries up and you've got 10 million illegals, I would estimate it's probably closer to 20 million that we've allowed in with the unknown gotaways, at least 15 million, then you're going to have massive chaos. And then you're also going to have it. I pray President Trump wins in 2024. Immediately, you're going to have Antifa, BLM, and now this new illegal alien contingent, along with Hamas and all these ceasefire idiots out there that are marching, basically the Nazis of our day. You're going to have all of these groups out in the streets of America destroying this country. We're already in a civil war. It's just going to get a hell of a lot worse. And it doesn't really matter what direction we go. The only way we're going to save it is if we take this country back, if President Trump wins and we get MAGA in the House and the Senate. But even if we get that, it's going to be painful. The left is going to send out what we saw, for 4 years under Trump with the burning down of our cities across America. They're going to have that, and it's going to amplify. But I think we're also going to start to see the inner city, like the guys I meet in Chicago. They're realizing BLM was not their friend. BLM just came in and stole their money. It's actually the Democrats that have been pitting everybody against each other that are the real enemy, the globalists, the communists. And so I pray that you see this coalition coming together. It's starting to happen in places like here in Chicago, but I pray that happens across America. But the people are fed up. It's going to be painful either way, we're already broke. We're already there. It's just, it's a matter of how painful it's going to get.
Well, and what I find so ironic is how they talk about if Trump gets in, he's going to be a dictator, and coming from the very journalists from this liberal media who take their orders from who? Because they're all saying the same thing and putting the fear, and they have no problem lying because they're following the rules of the dictator, whoever owns their station. And these are going to be your talking points today. And the truth never gets out. But where is the loyalty? The Democratic politicians and the people of the United States need to realize is the loyalty that you have as an elected official to the American people who voted you into office, or is it to the Democratic Party? This is where things, get a little stupid, because the Democratic Party and their agenda means more to these elected officials than the very people who they are representing. And this is where people are getting upset too. They realize they're not represented.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's absolutely true. And it's, it's not just the communists that run these networks, it's literal communists. These organizations and these, CNN, MSNBC, all of these fake news media outlets, New York Times, who actually, by the way, went to the Darian Gap, and all they've done is report lies. They haven't talked about the environmental disaster. They haven't talked about the condoms in the jungle. All they've talked about is climate change, if you can believe that, and the necessity for all these illegals to be coming here. But what they don't talk about is the fact that they are in bed with the very dictators that these people are fleeing from. They don't say anything negative about Maduro in Venezuela. They don't say anything negative about the Castros in Cuba. They don't say anything negative about Xi Jinping in China that the Christians are fleeing from. All of these networks and all of these Democrat leftists are aiding and abetting the very people that are causing the reason for the people fleeing. You look at Haiti right now with barbecue out there killing their own people. The reason that Haitians are fleeing Haiti is because they've had corrupt governments for 100 years. And instead of actually fixing it, what did the Democrats do? Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, they took billions of dollars and pocketed it. They put it in their own pockets, and they left those people to die. And now those people are coming here, and sadly, they're bringing that same third world mentality, and we're going to be the ones that have to pay for it. We're going to be the ones that are having to deal with it. And it's really sad, but we need politicians, we need representatives out there saying, no, you can't come here. And by the way, we're going to hold those people accountable. We're going to have the people that aided and abetted these cartels and aided and abetted these dictators. We're going to hold them accountable. We're going to prosecute them. But the only way that happens is if we win in 2024. But you're right. They've sold out not just their constituents, they've sold out America and the world. Because if America falls, the world falls. And all of these people that are fleeing their countries understand that.
Right. And before you go, I want you just to touch on something, because I reposted it and I watched it twice. Was your interview with the Chinese Christian who was stuck in the jungle with his wife with a sprained ankle. And that really touched my heart, because those are the types of people that need our help. And how many of them are there in China right now being persecuted because of their religious beliefs? And touch a little bit about that, Ben, before I let you go.
Yeah, so I met a family. I'll just call him John for his own safety. And last I saw, he was actually still stuck in the jungle. They were on the other side of the Darian Gap. They had started the journey. His wife sprained her ankle. They had actually fled the CCP. They're Christians in China that were being persecuted. Their pastor is still in prison in China. And he told me, and it was two things. He said, you can only leave China if China lets you leave. Americans don't understand this. We have freedom of mobility in America. If we want to fly somewhere, we want to leave somewhere, the only thing we have to get is permission from that country or place we want to go to. In China and in these dictatorships, you have to get permission to leave that country. And so they were actually captured on their way leaving China. They were held and questioned for several days. They ended up escaping that questioning. They snuck through into Laos and then into Vietnam, and eventually fled into the United States. They are part of what's coming to America. So we see thousands of Chinese nationals coming in illegally into our country every day. But there's a faction of those people that are legitimate refugees, legitimate asylum seekers. The whole reason we have asylum and the asylum process in America are for people like John and his family.
Yes.
And then you have the other side. And I actually asked him this. I said, John, okay, I understand your story. I understand you're Chinese, you're Christians escaping the Chinese, the CCP. But we've also heard that there are bad actors, there's spies, there's people that want to do America harm that the CCP is sending as well. Have you heard about that? Have you seen that? And the whole family started shouting, yes, 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 they're doing it. They're doing it. They're sending their spies. They're sending the bad people. And he said, we don't even know. We don't know if they're good or they're bad. He said, it's in with everyone. They're in with everyone. And so that's what's happening. So you have people that are legitimately escaping evil, godless dictators like Xi Jinping from China, and not rather than doing something to stop him, you got Joe Biden, who's basically sold out to China. He's basically bought off by China. And then you have the people that are trying to flee, but then you have that same government sending their spies as they're sending their fentanyl precursors to Mexico, and the cartels are turning it into fentanyl and sending it across our border, and we're having mass casualties every single year, hundreds of thousands. It's really a chemical warfare that we see going on in our country. All of that happening, and what is Joe Biden doing? What is Secretary Marcus doing? Absolutely nothing. Actually, worse than nothing. They're inviting more in. Right. And so that's what we're seeing. So I pray for the people, the legitimate people around the world that are having to deal with this. The whole reason we had asylum in the first place, I'm here with my wife. Her family escaped Laos to come here. They had to be sponsored. They had to promise that they wouldn't be drains on society. They didn't receive benefits. When they got here, they had to get a job. They had to work, all of these things. That was the asylum system, how it was supposed to be. They love America. They became citizens. They love this country. That's what it needs to be. And the opposite of that is what we have now. We have a corrupt government who's gaming the system, who realizes they can undermine our own country with these very laws. And until we fix that, we not only need to stop illegal immigration, we need to close the borders, shut it down, and begin what President Trump has talked about, this mass deportation event, and go through one by one and say, are these people legitimate refugees or not? And if they're not, they need to go. I mean, it's very simple.
Well, and one thing I want to remind the viewers is, the Democrats bring up the statement on the Statue of Liberty, and make sure that you understand, people, that is just a statement. That is not American immigration law. And they love to bring this up when they're talking about this. It is a statement on a statue sent to us by France. Yeah. And so we have immigration laws that need to be followed. And Ben, I want to thank you for everything you do and the information that you bring us. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. And let me just say on that was legal immigration. That was where you came through legally. You came through Ellis Island. By the way, the entire number, and I don't have the number on hand right now, but the entire number of people that came through Ellis Island is less than the number of illegals that Joe Biden has allowed in the last 2.5 years. The entire number of these were legal immigrants coming to the United States. But that's the big distinction. To the left, there is a difference between legal immigration and illegal immigration. We have a right to decide who comes into our country, and anyone who comes in illegally should be immediately deported. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, because if we don't stop what's happening now, we no longer have a country.
Well, and you know what? I wanted to say this. El Salvador has now been labeled as one of the safest countries in the world, right?
God bless Bukele.
So when there's an El Salvadorian at the border and they tell Border Patrol, we're afraid to go home, then I guess you must be an MS-13 gang member. That's right. Because that's the only reason you'd be afraid to go home.
That's right.
Anyway, I hope you and your wife have some fun today, Ben. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day. Tell her I said happy anniversary. I love you guys.
God bless you, Marianne, and God bless all the angel moms across America, the ones that have actually paid the sacrifice for these policies. A lot of times it gets lost. It's not lost on me. In a lot of ways, I wish I hadn't met you, because I wish you hadn't lost your son, Brandon. He was an absolute hero to America, and it's an honor to know you and an honor to be with you.
Oh, thank you, Ben. I love you. Stay safe.
Love you too. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye. He's such a wonderful friend. And I'm telling you, he's got a heart of gold, and he takes the time when he's with us Angel Moms. I've been back there many times in DC when he was there reporting. I mean, I knew him when he was an independent journalist and really starting out and breaking ground and doing things that other journalists were not doing. And he always took the time to have individual interviews with us Angel Moms and put them out there. But he has slowly worked himself up to, he is a world-class journalist, folks. And this dude is not afraid to go do anything. You heard his stories I mean, they're in the Darian Gap in the middle of a gunfight with the cartel. And he goes back again, another time, because he wants to bring the truth to the American people and to the world, actually, because mainstream media sure as the heck isn't doing it. And his wife is a doll, and they've got, I believe it's 3 girls now. They just had another baby, but it might be 4 girls, but a beautiful family. And I appreciate Ben so much and him taking the time to come on the show today. When I wanted to get into a lot more, but he had limited time with me today. And like I said, I appreciate the time that he did take, but I wanted to talk about, he had touched on the Clintons and Haiti and stuff, and think about the amount of money that Hillary Clinton collected with the Clinton Foundation and was supposedly going to go down to Haiti and, get the electrical grid up and build homes and save these people, and whatever happened to that money. And this is the type of thing that I always want to go back and compare to when they came after We Build the Wall, because they said, you're stealing this money from the donors and we are going to prosecute you. We built 2 sections of wall. We had 3 more sections of wall that were going to go up. And I was just a part of the advisory board. I wasn't a part of the organization, but I was very proud of what we were doing. And the Southern District of New York, of course, has stolen probably close to $20 million from We Build the Wall. And we don't know where it's at. But what happened to the billions of dollars that Hillary Clinton raised for Haiti, and it never arrived down there to help them? What happened to the money? Where did it go? Whose pockets did it line? Is that part of her stated wealth amount of what her net worth? Does she count the Clinton Foundation? Has money slowly been coming out of there to pay her, her daughter, her son-in-law, her husband? Who knows? So this is sickening. And this is why when you do research and you understand why so much of the world feels the way they do about us, I don't blame the Haitians for feeling the way they do towards the Clintons, and in essence turning that into, this is how you feel about Americans, because we were promised all of this stuff and it never happened. The same thing happened down in Guatemala, decades ago, when the CIA went down in there and interfered in their elections and participated in getting rid of the president that was duly elected and was promising the people, the indigenous people, all their land ownership was going to be given back to them. And the foreign landowners were going to be thrown out of the country. And of course, the big fruit and coffee producers from the United States who were down there producing all of this with cheap labor had a cow. And so the CIA got involved in that and went down there and did what they did. This is why different countries and its people feel that the United States owe them. There's a really good book. It's called The Killing of Uncle Sam, and you can buy it on Amazon for like $19.99. And I'm telling you what, it will open your eyes to a lot of things that have happened in history. I've always been of the mindset that the United States is the best country in the world. And we are, folks. It's the best place you could live in the world. The freedoms that we have, although we're getting very close to a point that these freedoms are slowly slipping away from us. And there isn't much that we're doing as an American people to stop this from happening. We're just watching it happen and sitting at home bitching and moaning about it. What are we really doing about it? But get that book and read it, because I came away from it thinking, gosh, there's so much involvement that the United States has had, and the CIA is really not a government organization, folks. It's something that was put together. There's no funding from Congress that's given to the CIA. A lot of their funding came from Afghanistan, where they went in and had them stop growing all of the vast numbers of crops that they were growing in Afghanistan, and talk the farmers into planting poppy seeds, poppy fields. And the CIA would go in and get the drugs and sell that, and that's how they started funding themselves way back when. So, and anytime there's countries that are growing crops that produce drugs like that, of course there's going to be cartel and that kind of activity because they're trying to protect things. But and the CIA had to deal with them. We'll come in and buy it all from you and sell it on the open market. So there's a lot of things. This book really explains a lot, goes into how the Federal Reserve was put together and the players behind that. And take the time. It's not a very big read. I mean, it's probably an inch and a half thick, but an inch thick, an inch and a half thick. But spend the $19.99, the Killing of Uncle Sam on Amazon, and go buy it and settle in the next few nights and read it. And you're going to really be surprised of things that you find out. I'm always all about getting educated. I want to talk about an article that my sister and I were going back and forth about it a few days ago, that when it came out, that a Obama appointed judge rules that the article says immigrants, illegal aliens can carry guns in the United States. So I'm going to share this article with you because it's pretty scary when you think about it. And quite frankly, I just think this is an invitation to the armed cartel to come into the United States is what this is. So the Obama appointed judge rules that illegal immigrants can carry guns in the United States. U.S. District Judge Sharon Johnson Coleman, appointed by Barack Obama, which that doesn't even matter who she's appointed by. But she ruled that an illegal immigrant has a right to bear arms under the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. First of all, they don't have constitutional rights when they aren't citizens of the United States. Sorry. Any country that you go to and a constitution that they may have for its citizens don't apply to you as a visitor, or don't apply to you, especially if you've broken over their borders and you're there illegally. So this judge is sitting on the bench, reinventing laws and interpreting the laws according to her feelings for the day. She's not even about upholding the law, which is what a judge is supposed to be doing. And she's not about upholding the Constitution, which is what a judge should be doing. And this is the problem in the United States and what's happening with the justice system, because these are the types of people that you have sitting on the bench and making these decisions. So the ruling comes about in the case of Herberto Carvajal Flores, who faced charges under 18 USC 922 G, Article 5 or Line 5, a federal statute that prohibits non-citizens without legal status in the U.S. from possess in or affecting commerce any firearm or ammunition, or to receive any firearm or ammunition which has been shipped or transported in interstate or foreign commerce. A federal statute prohibits non-citizens without legal status in the U.S. from possessions of guns. He has been living in the United States illegally, was charged after he was found to be carrying a gun in Chicago during the civil unrest in the spring of 2020. He and his lawyers have fought the charge, arguing that the gun was for self-defense and citing a Supreme Court ruling on New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, Inc. versus Bruin. That New York law was unconstitutional, and the ability to carry a pistol in public was a constitutional right. And on March 8th, Judge Coleman concurred that Carvajal Flores' defense, stating that his nonviolent history and adherence to the conditions of his pretrial release demonstrated he did not pose a public safety risk. So the judge's ruling claims that the statute under which he was charged does not align with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation and therefore cannot be used to strip him of his Second Amendment rights. This dude doesn't have a Second Amendment right. The government argues that he is a non-citizen who is unlawfully present in the country, and the court notes, however, that he has never been convicted of a felony, a violent crime, or a crime involving the use of a weapon. Is this judge insane? Honestly. It doesn't erase the fact that he's a non-citizen carrying a firearm in the United States. The court finds that his criminal record containing no improper use of a weapon, as well as the nonviolent circumstances of his arrest, did not support a finding that he poses a risk to public safety, such that he cannot be trusted to use a weapon responsibly and should be deprived of his Second Amendment right to bear arms in self-defense. The non-citizen possession statute violates the Second Amendment as applied to Carvajal Flores. Thus, the court grants him a motion to dismiss. So let me just kind of like talk about now what this is going to lead into. So just because this dude doesn't have a criminal record doesn't mean that he should be allowed to, let me see where this is. It doesn't mean that he should be allowed to carry a gun. Got that off the screen. Doesn't mean he should be allowed to carry the gun. The Constitution states that non-citizens are not allowed to carry guns in the United States. Okay? There's also another article out that I was reading that they're now trying to disarm veterans who have been deemed incapacitated through the veterans through the VA. Are these illegals who are carrying firearms in the United States? Have they gone through the testing to see if they are all with it to be carrying firearms in the United States? No. But these men and women who fought to protect our freedoms are now under scrutiny and won't be able to have a firearm for self-defense. For self-defense, that this judge claims it's illegal, has a right to carry this gun. Folks, this is an invitation, and this case is going to be used over and over and over and over and over for illegals that have guns in the United States. This is an open invitation to the armed cartel to come on into the United States. We're open for business. Bring your guns, bring whatever you want, because and claim you're carrying it in self-defense. This is insanity. And this judge needs to be flooded with emails and phone calls and stuff. This is a dangerous precedent to set in the United States of America. Absolute insanity. Let's see. I wanted to go through. Hi, Lisa. I see that you're commenting. Thank you for watching today. Okay. It's kind of like share. I'm working on getting some other new guests on this week, hopefully Thursday. But I wanted to just kind of share. I thought I was going to have Ben the whole hour, but didn't get to happen. And I don't blame him for wanting to go spend time with his wife. So let me see. I think it's this one. So an illegal immigrant was arrested in Arizona, and he had felony child sex crime convictions from Utah. So, man, I hate when they have you do this just to get access to these articles. Oh my goodness. Hold on a second. I apologize, folks. I want to be able to read this article because all right, this one I'm going to sign out of. And this one I'm going to bring forward. So got to do all kinds of stuff to see articles. They have to have all your information all the time. All right. So an illegal immigrant was arrested in Arizona. A convicted child predator was reportedly taken into custody in Arizona by Border Patrol this month after illegally entering the United States. The unidentified 32-year-old man was part of a group of 6 people that he was arrested with on March 10th. The group was found in a remote Araby near Sassabee, Arizona. The man, a Mexican citizen, had 2 felony convictions for child sex crimes out of St. George, Utah. So he faces prosecution for illegal re-entry into the United States for an aggravated felon. And last week, Border Patrol agents nabbed 5 child sex offenders in various sectors in Texas. And in other parts of the U.S. border have also seen arrests of illegal immigrants with child sex crime convictions. So the liberals who claim to care about the children and claim that Republicans don't care about children. Let me just list the many things that are going on. So the Biden administration and Health and Human Services in particular have lost track of about 85,000 unaccompanied minors that have come over our border. Where's the outrage and screaming and yelling about these 85,000 children? Where's the outrage about it? Nothing from the left. You've got all of these Democratic politicians back in DC who continually vote against anything about child trafficking, sex trafficking, any of that sort of thing. You've got 2 representatives right here in LD9 in Arizona, Representative Austin and Representative Blattman. Neither of them have families. Representative Austin is an LGBTQ activist. So she doesn't have children. I don't think that she's ever going to have children. And Blattman is not married and he doesn't have children. And they both voted yesterday against a bill to fight child trafficking in Arizona, along with a bunch of other Democrats who did that. But my point being, you've got 2 people who really don't have families or children or know anything, and they're representing a huge community in Mesa that is family oriented. Large Hispanic areas and families all over West Mesa. And you've got 2 representatives who are so out of touch with reality and out of touch with their community and their constituents that they're voting no on this sort of thing. And this is why I was saying earlier, I'm so sick of the allegiance to the Democratic Party versus the oath that you took to protect your constituents and to vote accordingly how they wanted you to vote. Now, I'm sure if Representative Austin and Blattman would ever get out into the community and have the questions, how do you feel about that I voted no on the bill to fight child trafficking? Why don't you ask those kind of questions? But no, they skip around the community and go to all of these events and, talk about, get out here, you need to see all of this and go to the schools. And Representative Austin talks about the books and the fights that she's doing for the LGBTQ community. That's not a huge concern in Mesa, Arizona. And that's not a huge part of the population in Mesa, Arizona. There is not one thing that Representative Blattman or Representative Austin have done since they got into office. Nothing. No bills have been brought forward. Blattman is all about fighting for ranked choice voting. Austin is all about making sure that the explicit books are kept in the public and school libraries. Come on, folks. These are the types of people that are being voted into office all across our country. We need to wise up. And you really need to ask the candidates, when they talk, because they talk a good talk, we're for the people of the community. This is our community. This is our community, and we work for you. Really? Look at the voting record of your representatives on a state level. Look at what they're doing. Look at how they're voting against you. Those are the types of things that you need to understand. Anybody can talk a good talk. I had a guy yesterday when I was out door knocking, getting petition signed, that questioning me. Some really, I mean, he was asking me hardball questions. I had the answers. I had a great conversation with him. And when it came time to say, you know, after we had 5 minutes of a conversation, will you sign my petition to get me on the ballot as a viable candidate for you to be able to vote for? Well, I don't live here. I live up in Colorado, but hold on, I'll get my mom. So I went and got it when she had been kind of standing in the background listening to everything. And she ended up coming and signing my petition. But my point being, that guy really had the questions and wanted to really find out, you know, what I was about. And he pressed a couple times, what are you going to do about illegal immigration in the state of Arizona? You know, and I pointed out to him, there's not a whole lot we can do on a state level. However, you know, after going to Texas and meeting with Michael Banks, the borders are there in Texas, and having a conversation with him and knowing what we could do as a state of Arizona, how Texas is doing, and putting the pushback against the federal government, we could do that here in Arizona if we had a larger majority of Republicans in office, because the Democrats are never going to vote against their dictatorship, the Democratic Party, and say, look, we need border security. This is wrong, what's happening to our country. They're never going to say anything against Biden. They're never going to say anything in the state of Arizona against this ridiculous governor that we have, Katie Hobbs. She vetoes everything pertaining to border security, election integrity, you know, child trafficking, fighting child trafficking, any of that sort of thing. If that thing had passed, well, it has passed the House, so it's going to the Senate, but she'll veto it when it gets to her desk. She won't declare it an invasion in Arizona, when this is where over 85% of the fentanyl that enters our country comes in through. She won't order it. She won't state that it's an invasion. She talked a big talk about sending Arizona National Guard down there, but they're just going to be down there to watch what's going on. She's not going to give them any authority to do anything, like turn them away at the border. But, you know, in the state of Arizona, we have over 300 miles of 4 strands of barbed wire, 3 in some places, as our border security. That's it, folks. So over 300 miles. And when the cartel's been kind of pushed back on in Texas, and they may redirect their operations this way. And of course, that represents a whole different cartel, because all throughout the country of Mexico, there's different fractions of the cartel along the border. So, you know, now the cartels are having to interact and probably pay each other as they're shuffling off the human trafficking that they need to send further west to Arizona and to California. But we don't have enough manpower to go along 300 miles of the border. And, you know, yes, you see it in southern Arizona right now, where the cartel is cutting through the border fence. Yes, it's happening. It's going to happen. The cartel will always find a way around the deterrents that are put in their way, but it will slow the flow. And it's at least going to take them some time to get that done, right? Border Patrol will become aware of the breach and be able to fix it. But if you've got enough border wall up to where it funnels these people into ports of entry, which was a goal all along, that's border security. You're doing something about stopping the flow. You can't just do nothing and say our borders are secure. You can't just be silly enough to say building a wall isn't going to do anything. That's not border security. Well, what is? Every other country's got that, who has immigration problems and border issues with a neighboring country that they may be feuding with. Israel has the best type of border fencing up. North and South Korea have a wall between them. Mexico has one on their southern border. Walls work. I was there in Texas. I saw Shelby Park. I saw the concertina wire. I saw the Texas National Guard. I talked to Michael Banks, and he told me from January 1st to January 10th, 16,604 people came across that area, illegals. On January 11th, the Texas National Guard and Governor Abbott took over Shelby Park. They were having about 100 people a day trying to come over there that were turned back. Now, folks, it's down to maybe 1, 2. You know, when you take that 16,000 and divide it by 10, that was over 1,600 people a day coming through that area. And now it's down to 1 or 2, and they're turned back. They're not even allowed to come over. Don't tell me deterrents don't work, that walls don't work, that enforcing laws don't work. That is what we need in this country. We don't need judges like that one saying illegals can carry guns. She is not the person who is allowed to make up new laws. We've got to fight very, very hard against this. This decision has to be appealed. One of these conservative, non-governmental organizations that fight for, kind of like the ACLU fights for the liberals and the illegals, America First Project, one of those needs to take this up. We need to fight against that. We need to bring this judge down. We need to get her off the bench. There needs to be a recall, folks. We can't have more judges like this. We can't just let another week go by without addressing that issue. All right, enough about that. All right, so I get so upset when those kinds of articles come out. And this one's pretty upsetting too. So, an African illegal alien on the terror watch list arrested after allegedly opening fire at a business. So, an illegal alien from near the Middle East was arrested last week in North Carolina after opening fire at a business and subsequently attacking law enforcement officers. I can't pronounce his name. Awet Hagos was charged in Gates County with 3 counts of assault on a government official, 3 counts of resisting a public officer, and 1 count of carrying a concealed weapon, with more potential charges forthcoming. So they were called to a quick stop convenience store where he was discharging a firearm. He attacked law enforcement and managed to fight off tasers that the sheriff's deputy used on him. Tasers, folks, as this dude is shooting a firearm. This is what our law enforcement has been reduced to, because they know they'll be thrown into internal affairs and, likely crucified before they even have a trial. And so they shoot lasers at a guy, an armed guy. As he fled to his residence, he remained barricaded for hours, and he tried to take a sheriff's deputy rifle. Anyway, they got him, and ICE reached out to Gates County Sheriff's Office and informed them that he is on the terrorist screening data set, TSDS, also known as the terrorist watch list. So he either had to have come over the border where it was unsecured and not come through a port of entry, because listen, this needs to be investigated. They need to find out exactly how he came into this country. Was it through the phone app that Mayorkas has put out, that he signed up as he was not in the country, signed up for it, and was granted access? Oh yeah, come on over, showed up at a port of entry. Was he one of the ones of the 30,000 Venezuelans and Haitians and Nicaraguans that they're flying into this country? Was he one of those that got a free flight? Because he is from an area of Africa near the Yemen border and had previously lived in Haiti prior to coming to North Carolina. He had lived in the sanctuary state of California. So he's a terrorist from the Yemen area that went to live in Haiti, and we're flying Haitians and people from Haiti in to our country. Connect the dots, folks. So anyway, they need to find out exactly what process he used, because if he was on a terror watch list and the Border Patrol agent had access to that as they were processing this dude, and they either didn't access it or saw it and didn't care, or he was flown in from Haiti direct, or who knows, maybe he got across undetected. That's a possibility too. But the history of this dude, it needs to go back to how he got here, because we need to find out where there was a lack of consistency in how they claim they're letting people into this country. That would be a very interesting story to get to the bottom of, I think. There's two other articles that I want to just share with you because we're running out of time. But got to go through a lot of clicking to get these to come up on the screen. So an Afghan refugee has been convicted of murder in a case that shocked Albuquerque's Muslim community. He was found guilty Monday of first-degree murder in one of the 3 fatal shootings that shook Albuquerque's Muslim community during the summer of 2022. He faces life in prison for killing another 41-year-old Muslim on July 26th of 2022. He will stand trial in the coming months in the other 2 slayings. So prosecutors presented cell phone data showing his phone was in the area, and they found projectiles recovered from the scene that had been fired from a rifle that was found hidden under his bed. Defense attorneys say that there was no witness, there's no evidence to show that he was the one who pulled the trigger, but they said others who lived in his home could also access his phone, the vehicle, and the rifle. Anyway, here's another one. It's like you've got illegals in this country who are having access to guns. And folks, I'm telling you right now, this is not the time. This is not the time for us to cave. Let me look at the time. We got a couple minutes. This is not the time for us to cave to this gun grab and the gun control that the liberals are trying to pull off. Not when you have judges saying that illegals have the authority to carry guns in the United States. Not when you have these people from Afghanistan and terrorists from these terrorist type countries coming into our country and possessing guns. This isn't the time for us to be disarmed. This is a time to arm up. This is a time to know that your safety is really in your own hands. We don't have a justice system. We don't have an administration that would back us up in any situation like this. You've got activists out there trying to disarm us. You've got Democrat politicians who are working against us. And you've got an administration who is allowing an open border and an invasion, which definitely includes armed criminals coming into our country. So we have to all be very vigilant and stay safe. And coming up on the end of my show, but thank you for joining me today. I know I kind of went off on a tangent, but I read all these articles, on in between my weeks of podcasts, and it's just so overwhelming, all the crimes that are going on and things that are happening and cases that are being decided. And I just feel compelled to make sure that my viewers know this, and you've got this information. And again, we were so lucky to have Ben come on to our show and give us the information from his latest trip, to the Darian Gap. And I'm not drinking, I promise. But anyway, I hope you all have a good rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow bright and early. Thanks for joining.